Hello, our friends. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again, it is time for another Orc Mode workout. And today was Dynamic Effort Lower Day. First one of these you guys have seen in 6 months, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please click a like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. So, a little bit of slack in the bands. I'm just now seeing the footage there. A little bit of slack in the bands at the bottom, but overall, pretty happy with these. I only did 6 sets. Okay, and I know you guys are used to seeing really high set squats, but here's the way I'm going to work this. I'm going to focus a little more on deadlifting right now. So we're going to do box squats super deep, right? All the box squatting is going to be super deep. I'm going to do more speed pulls than I'm going to do squats. So instead of like 6 to 10 singles, today I started with 8 doubles on speed pulls. 8 doubles. I'll work that up to 10 doubles so that I get 20 pulls every week on the speed work. And I went sumo today, and my God, did my hips feel it. It actually affected my other lifts. It even affected my glute ham raises. But let's talk about the speed squats first. One of my mini bands, a little bit of an issue with it, kind of trying to come on and off. One of the smallest ones. Fortunately, it's only 7.5 pounds on that side. But we ran 115 pounds of bands with 221 bar weight. 221 bar weight. So I'm calculating that more or less off of the only max I've tried with this bar off this 11-inch box, which I'm probably stronger than. These all moved pretty fast, pretty happy with them. So it's more or less really close to 50% bar weight, half pound over, and a little over 25% of the max in band tension. So that basically means on the top half of the rep and the lockout, it's pretty much, there that one band came off there on the first rep. So again, I had some issues with that. Fortunately, it's such a small amount of weight. And actually, that would still, I think even with that one detached, it's still at that 25%. Notice I have to reattach some of the stuff in between. But yeah, just 6 doubles with this. I want to get a little bit faster, a little more explosive. I've been looking at some of my old speed work footage before I did all this. And I do need to just drive a little harder out of the bottom. I need to dig those feet harder. But overall, they're not bad in terms of speed. They need to be a hair faster, right? And I got to figure out how to get those bands set up a hair tighter. And it's mainly because I'm squatting to a deeper box. Had I been using my normal box for this, which was 2 inches taller, those bands would have still been taut on this setup, actually. And I am limited in how much spacing I have on the band pegs with this bolted down rack, right? You have a little bit less flexibility with it on those pegs. So I'll have to adjust for next time. And it might be the case of me not even running all the mini bands. I might run the bigger green band, right, if I have to. We'll figure it out, though. We'll figure it out. And also this bar. When I go to a different bar, that's not going to be dropped as low. Again, this safety bar that dropped deeper camber, it just didn't quite give me the perfect tension. It's still peak tension through the top half, but just the bottom's a little bit loose. But I didn't get super fatigued. Those are about a minute apart. The speed pulls we did 30 seconds apart. So I did these at 30 seconds, and I rotated grip every time. So I did two reps. We did 2 reps, and trying to be as explosive and violent as possible. Again, just now doing speed work again, so the speed should improve. The aggressiveness will improve as I go. And I rotated my grip because I wanted to stick with mixed grip. I'm not going to strap up for any of these. So I switched grip every time, between every set. So we did half the sets with the one arm supinated, and the other half of the sets with the other arm supinated. So back and forth each time. And again, it's making me get a little more well-rounded in that pulling. And I haven't pulled sumo in a long time, and my hips were fried after this. My hips were lit up, and it didn't bother me so much on the Good Mornings, but it definitely impacted me on the glute ham raises. I was not able to get all my 12 rep sets with my normal weight. But these felt good. They felt good, and I stopped just because my hands need to get used to it. I didn't use the deadlift bar. I haven't been pulling with it barehanded in a while. It's going to toughen my hands up to that bar real quick, though. Because, again, this is the Texas deadlift bar, the most aggressive knurling bar I have out of my 2 deadlift bars. And it'll cut you. It'll cut you. So this will fall into part of my grip training, too. And I think with these, because I need to get a hair wider, my rack only lets me get so wide, the downside of the flat base rack, but that's what I had already for the half rack, and when I ordered the other half to upgrade it, there was no way to make it really the open footing. You know, I could probably get different bottom pieces, and that would be a whole nother other issue to do that. That might be doable. I'll think about it in the future. But I'd like to be able to get a little bit wider, because my best sumo pull ever was with wider toes in this. And I did notice I have to grip the bar a little narrower to not hit my thumb on my thigh at the top. So it's forcing me to do things a little bit different. So I think I will do some of these with chains. So I'll rotate them, because I want to stick with just sumo for a while. I mean, I'd like to do some deficit deadlifts for this, but quite frankly, sumo deadlift builds my deadlift. Sumo speed pulls build my conventional just fine. I need the extra hip training, right? I need the extra hip training. So I need to be doing this wider stance. It will benefit me, especially for my speed work. So to alternate, I might do some of the ways with chains, and those will also let me get a little bit wider. I found sumo with chains to be quite good for speed pulls in the past, just because of that, because of my rack limitations. And again, I don't really have a good way to set up the bands outside of the rack. So we'll think about that in the future. But overall, very happy with the speed work. Afterwards, I did safety bar good mornings for 10s. And I think what I may do is do the cambered bar good mornings on my max effort days, right? Hit a different angle, go heavier, stick with the theme of a little bit heavier. And because I don't like to do 5s and stuff with this bar, it's just a lot of pressure on my neck for a lot of reps. And these were challenging today, though. These were hard sets, pretty close to limit sets. So 291 for 3 sets of 10. And considering my 1 rep max with this bar so far has been 421, whereas with the camber bar it's 555, this is about right for programming. It's what I've been doing. I haven't really tried to go heavier than this for 10s. But again, while cutting, I may not be able to increase much on some of these lower body lifts. If I can, I will, though. I might try to micro load it up a little bit, see if I can put another 2 pounds on and get all my reps. Right? We can try that, because we should try to make some progress. That's kind of the thing. When you're in a calorie deficit, we know that progress is very hard, maybe not even doable. Of course, I've got some special factors. I'm not going to get into all that. But we have to push for it, right? We need our sets to be high quality, and we have to limit our volume. You cannot do as much volume when you're in a calorie deficit. You see people like, oh, do tons of higher volume training when you're cutting. That doesn't work that well, to be quite frank. Your calories, your food intake is what's going to determine your fat loss. You're not going to burn a bunch more calories by doing some little high rep fluff stuff. It's not going to happen. Your recovery is compromised, though. So actually you have to limit volume. And what does that mean? That means individual sets need to be pushed hard. If possible, you need to try to push for progression. So we'll try to do that. We'll try to do that. If I can go up on some of these lifts, then we go up on them. But the speed work felt great. It did not beat me up. One thing I'm noticing, I am not feeling the same fatigue afterwards after I do on some leg days. Because again, this moderate volume, do the speed work, and then 3 sets of 3 supplemental lifts. Right? This is not a super long or difficult workout. I finished this whole workout pretty much in the morning. And it just takes time to voice over, render, upload. So this will be up here in a bit. But, this workout took me maybe 2 hours just to knock everything out. It was a 2-hour workout. So, not bad at all. Not bad. Considering some of the weights I'm working with here. So, again, the good mornings, they went good. They were challenging. But I left a little bit in the tank, right? So I know I can probably bump the weight just a hair. Glute ham raises, I couldn't. Right, this 10-pounder, I got 12 for the first set, and I noticed my hip, that first rep you'll see me shifting, my hip hurt. And it's because of those sumos. They really, really fatigued my right hip. And then I started feeling the left hip when I got on the reverse hyper. So that sumo work for the speed pulls really hammered my hips hard. Another reason I stopped. I'm like, I could have tried to do 10 sets, but again, my hands, my hips, I'm going to have to acclimate to this just a little bit. And, before long, we'll be doing 10 sets, 10 doubles. And again, that's kind of deadlift specialization. You can tailor your speed work and your dynamic effort work a little bit around what you want to specialize in. So in this case, I'm doing less squatting and more pulling, right? Less squatting, more pulling. And I think that's going to work out really good for me. And the other benefit, people say, are you worried about your squatting and regressing? Well, no, because I'm going to box squat on my max effort days for reps, for heavier rep work. So technically, when we start balancing out the week, we're getting a decent amount of squatting volume in. I need to get my pulls back up. And I need the benefit of that wider stance stuff like the Sumo speed pulls. So that's what we're going to do. The second set, though, 10 was all I could handle. Like the 10th rep felt like a grinder. It was slower. It was harder. And again, me shaking my head on the 9th rep, it's like then you get the idea. The 10th rep was hard. The final set, I had to rest pause to get to 10. I had to take a breather at the top of every rep after about rep 6, I think. So it's all I had. It was hip fatigue, hamstring fatigue. So those speed pulls were a lot more posterior chain work than they really felt like. I mean, I felt my hips and everything. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely working my hips good. But once I started doing the other supplemental work, I realized how much harder they got worked. It impacted the other lifts a little bit downstream. But I feel good right now. So after I just finished all the training, ate just a little bit of food, got my creatine in, I'm not noticing quite the same fatigue I get on a max effort day. So there's a lot of intra-session fatigue, but afterwards you feel fine. That's one of the perks with dynamic effort days, especially lowers. A lot of people hate the dynamic lowers during. They're so hard during it. It feels ultra fatiguing, but then when you're finished, you feel fine. Whereas a lot of times on a max effort day, you feel good. You're like, oh, I just did that one really heavy rep. I did the volume work afterwards. I don't feel so bad. And then bam, 30 minutes later, it hits you. So it's kind of interesting, the dichotomy you see between the two. And then I did my normal reverse hypers, the 5-10 for 3 sets of 25. These were harder today. Last few reps were tough. Like I think the last time, I knocked out a couple extra reps on the final set on the LME day. Today, it just wasn't there. Again, I started noticing that hip fatigue. But in this one, it was my left hip. So my right hip, I felt it on the Glute Ham Raise. The reverse hypers, I felt my left hip. So it goes to show those Sumo speed pulls, even though they don't feel like they're that hard when I'm doing them, they are a lot of work. Because the hips got worked hard. My hands got worked hard, pulling against heavy bands, because that was what I've estimated at 142. So 142 pounds of bands, and bands jerk at the top on your grip, right? It's not like straight weight, it actually jerks when you get to the lockout. So it makes that bar dig into your hands harder. But I didn't tear any calluses, so that's a good thing. It's like my hands, they're I can tell that I did the work, and they look a little bit rough, but it didn't tear anything. And they don't really hurt at this point, but they definitely were hurting while I was doing it. So over time, they'll toughen right up. They'll get used to that bar. And I think speed pulls is really a good way to get used to a deadlift bar or any aggressive knurl on a bar like that. If you really need to toughen your hands up, that'll do it, because you're having to hit those heavy lockouts, right? And especially stuff like the bands, because it will make it more aggressive as far as the dig into your hands at the top when you hit those bands at the lockout, because then it tries to jerk back down. And it'll try to do an overspeed eccentric on you. Okay, that is tough on your hands. But again, very good for grip training, and again, good for conditioning your hands to deal with a really aggressive bar. Overall, very, very happy with today's workout. Very happy with it. Pretty much did exactly what I expected to do and what I wanted to do. So we're good here. And obviously we'll go back into this coming week into a normal max effort, dynamic effort rotation like I used to do. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.